Hello everyone. So in today's short video, I will be doing some examples on quadratic equations and factorizing these quadratic equations. Okay, so let's get into it. So let's take, for example, this equation. 2x squared plus 13x plus 15 equals 0. So the first thing I want to do, I want to solve for x, right? So the first thing, I open my two brackets like this. And just as a refresher, the letters or numbers that go into this first spot in my bracket needs to multiply to give this first number here, right? So the only combination of numbers that will work would be a 2 here and a 1 there, and to get the x squared we need to put an x here and an x here. So 2x multiplied by x would give me 2x squared. So the hard part comes in the other set of numbers now, right? So the last part in these brackets needs to multiply to give 15 and also add to give 13. But remember that this 2x is also going to multiply by that value there. Okay, so we need to account for that value. However, that doesn't change the fact that these two spaces need to multiply to give 15. That will never change, okay? So the first thing we want to do is obtain some values that will multiply to give 15. So let's see what we have here. We have the 15 by 1, that will give me 15. Negative 15 by negative 1, that's important as well to see. We also have 5 by 3, and we have negative 5 by negative 3. I think that is all. Okay, so let's take the 15 and the 1. Okay, if I was to put the 15 here and the 1 over here, let's see what will happen there. The 2x will multiply by the 1 to give me 2x, and the 15 will multiply by the x to give 15x, and that will give me 17x, which is not the 13 that I'm looking for. Remember, we need to also add the two numbers together to give me the middle number. Okay, so that's not going to work, and that's no problem. Alright, let us try 5 and the 3. So I put my 5 here and my 3 over here. So let's see, 2 by 3 is 6x, and 5 by x, 5x. That will add up to give me 11x. That doesn't work either. Not a problem. Not a problem. Remember, we could always switch them around, right? Because remember, one of them is being multiplied by 2 and the other is not. And 3 by 5 is still 5 by 3, 15, right? So now that I have switched them around, let's see what happens now. The 2x will multiply by the 5 to give me 10x, and the 3 will multiply by the x to give me 3x. What does that add up to? I think 13x. So therefore, the answer is this. This is my final answer here. 2x plus 3 into x plus 5. However, we have to solve for x, right? So these two brackets equal 0, and when we are solving for x, we just separate the brackets and work them like a regular algebraic equation. So it's going to be 2x plus 3 equals 0. So I move my 3 to the other side. That becomes minus 3. And I have to divide by 2. So minus 3 on 2. That is my answer. And the other bracket would be x plus 5 equals 0. And this is a straightforward one. X is equal to minus 5. So my values of x will be equal to negative 3 on 2, or x is equal to minus 5. And there you have it. Okay, let's take another example now, and we'll do them a little quicker this time. So we have 2z squared minus 12z minus 14 equals 0. So I put down my brackets, and as usual we have a 2z squared, so one of them is going to be 2z, the other is just going to be z. And let's see all the possible combinations to get negative 14, right? So I could have 14 and negative 1, negative 14 and 1. I could have 7 and negative 2, or negative 2 and 7. That seems like all of the possible combinations there. Okay, so we'll just have to plug them in, right? Because we have a 2 there. So it already looks like we could get this in one shot, right? So if I put the 14 and negative 14 here, and a 1 over here, I think we are in, because the 2z is going to multiply, 2z will multiply by the 1 to give me 2z, and the negative 14 will multiply by the z to give me negative 14z, and 2 minus 14, well, that's minus 12z, and that is exactly what I have in the middle here, right? So we got it on the first try. Alright, so my final answer, 2z minus 14 into z plus 1 equals 0, and to solve, we separate the brackets. 2z minus 14 equals 0, 2z equals 14, and z equals 14 over 2, which is 7. And then on the other bracket, z plus 1 equals 0, z is equal to negative 1, so I have my two values of z. Simple, right? Okay, let's take another one. Let's move on from a 2 and we'll do a 3, but it's the same principle, okay? So 3g squared minus 8g minus 11 equals 0. Again, it's the same principle. So we put my 3 here, and I put the g there. So 3g by g will give me 3g squared. And 11 happens to be a prime number, so there's only two possible combinations, right? So 11 by negative 1, or negative 11 by 1 will give me negative 11, right? Now I'm seeing an 8 over here and an 11 here. So I know somehow, somewhere that 11 minus 3 will give me 8, right? And if my only combinations are 11 and negative 1, it means that for sure the 3g is going to have to multiply by a 1. Okay, so I know for sure that a 1 has to come here, but I'm not sure if it's a positive or negative yet. The 8 here is a negative 8, right? So that means when you're adding up the numbers, if my answer is a negative number, then the bigger number that I am adding up or taking away has to be the negative number. Okay, I'll show you what I mean just now. So if I have a negative 8, so I will put negative 11 here, and I'll put a plus 1 here, because negative 11 plus 3, that gives you negative 8, or 3 minus 11 gives me negative 8. So you see how the 11 is the negative number in both scenarios, because my answer is a negative number. So the bigger number is the negative 1. So that's how I quickly worked it out. But in any case, if you didn't want to do that, you only had 2 options to choose from, you would have got through very quickly, right? So that's my final answer there. And so I just need to split it up now. 3g minus 11 equals 0. 3g is equal to 11, and g 11 over 3. And then g plus 1 equals 0. G is equal to negative 1. Okay, there we have it. So I will do one more, because it's the same thing, right? Let's do a 5 this time. Alright, so 5n squared minus 36n plus 7 equals 0. And again, 7 is a prime number, so we are in luck, right? So 5n n. That gives me 5n squared. Okay, so I have 7, so the only possible combinations could be 7 and 1 or minus 7 by minus 1. Okay, and I'm seeing already that my 36 over here is a negative number, so it's probably likely that I'm going to have to use the negative set of values here. Okay, you can't get a negative number by multiplying two positive numbers, by adding up two positive numbers, right? So obviously something has to happen with those negative numbers, so I already eliminate the wrong choice. Now the other question is to where am I putting these two numbers? Do I put the 7 over here or do I put it here? Look at the number in the middle, it's negative 36. Alright, that's a big number, and I only have a 7 and a 1 to play with. So more than likely I'm going to have to utilize the 5 over here to be multiplying by the 7. Okay, because 5 and 7, 5 multiplied by 7 gives me 35. Right, and I'll just need to add it to the 1 to make the 36. Okay, so that's how I figure out that my negative 7 should come here, so it could multiply by the 5n, right? And then my negative 1 will simply come here. Right, so 5n by negative 7 gives me negative 35n, and minus 1 by n gives me minus n, so negative 35 minus 1 gives me negative 36. And there we have it. Okay, so I will just solve it very quickly. So 5n minus 1 equals 0. Move the 1 to that side, and n equals 1 over 5. And then n minus 7 equals 0. And we simply move the 7. So I got n is equal to 7, or n is equal to 1/5. Okay, so these were just some sample questions on how to work it in case you weren't familiar with the working. So I didn't do all of the questions, so you could practice some of the questions that I didn't do, and I will always correct it for you. Okay, thanks guys.